Hi everybody, it's Tom from Vehicle Visionary. I hope you're having a great day. In today's Vehicle Visionary video, we're going to do a comparison between the 2024 Hyundai Kona, fully redesigned for the 2024 model year, and the lightly refreshed 2024 Buick Encore GX. Changes to both, but obviously a lot more going on with the Kona. But you might be surprised at what you see with the Encore GX. And if you were going to guess which has the higher starting price, you might guess that it's the Hyundai. It's actually not. The Hyundai's base price comes in at $24,100, and the base price for the Encore GX, $25,600. So let's see what these models have in common and what they don't, and which one is the best choice. Obviously, you can see the changes on the Kona, fully redesigned, but there are also a few exterior changes on the Encore GX, mainly here on the front end, and the most obvious of those changes will be the Tri-Shield logo. This is the new logo for Buick for 2024. You'll see this on a couple of models. Also some other changes with the overall design here on the front end, a little bit more of a kind of narrowed off, kind of leaning towards the front look, as that really is the best way to describe that, because everything kind of comes to a point right here. So it really gives it kind of an in-motion look. And obviously changes with the daytime running lights and turn signal indicators up there. So it just gives it a little bit more sporty, a little bit more modern look. Now, speaking of sporty and modern looking, you might look at the Kona and say, wow, that really looks like an EV. Well, obviously this is not an EV, but that's why you see what you see with this area of the vehicle. It was originally designed as an EV, so that's why it has that particular look. Overall, kind of a similar layout as far as where the daytime running lights are and where the headlights are on each model. It really comes down to your preference on which one you think looks better, I guess, when it comes down to that particular area of the vehicle, whether it's the grille. And again, you see that kind of EV look here with the grille down in this area, as opposed to what we see with the Encore GX. Now, you will find active grille shutters here on the Kona. And one thing I do want to cover, you might notice the flickering effect with the lights. No, you can't make your vehicle do that. That has to do with my camera. If you're looking through the lens of my GoPro, the lights will flicker. If you're looking through your own eyes, they won't. Now, you probably have something wrong with your eyes if they do. Now, obviously, based on what was available in inventory today, I couldn't get identical trim levels to match. We'll just go with what we have here. So we do have power adjustable side view mirrors, blind spot monitoring. They are manually folding, and that's going to be the same on both, but the difference here is that we have the turn signal indicators built into the side view mirrors that are also manually folding here and have blind spot monitoring, power adjustable. And you can, on higher trim levels, have the turn signal indicators built in to the side view mirrors. Now, we'll have passive entry, which is just a button in this particular case with the Encore GX. And the good thing about that is that parents can come to the back doors first, especially if you have really little kids. That's likely what you're going to do. And you can lock and unlock all 4 doors from that area. An overall sporty look with the roof line on each model. We're going to have roof rails on each model as well. Now, this does not have a sunroof, although there is an available sunroof for both models. Neither one of these actually have a sunroof, so there's a similarity where that is concerned, but you'll have your roof rails and the rear roof spoiler. Now, I was going to try and do an Envista, the 2024 Envista from Buick, that is a brand new model, but it's basically just an Encore GX with more of a sporty look, sport back kind of coupe look on the rear. A little more cargo capacity in this case, and it's going to match up a little more with what we have here. Now, you'll obviously see that on the rear of the Kona, as far as the exterior goes, that the tail lights, everything back here, match the headlights and the daytime running lights here up on the top, and then with the tail lights on the bottom down there. Overall, a really nice look on both models. Both are available in either front or all-wheel drive. And by the way, I mentioned passive entry over here with the buttons that are on the door handles on the Buick. Well, you have something similar to that. You just walk up when you have the remote again on your person, and you can lock or unlock the doors here. So it's very similar on both. I just want to make sure I cover that. And let's talk about engine and transmission options, as you have two for each model. We'll start here with the Kona. You can go with the 2-liter 4-cylinder that makes 147 horsepower. If you go with the inline or the limited trim levels, you will step up to the 1.6-liter 4-cylinder, the turbocharged engine that makes 190 horsepower. And for those of you who say, I don't like a CVT or anything along those lines, in this case, if you go with the 2-liter, you're going to have what's called an intelligent variable transmission. But if you go with that 1.6-liter on those two higher trim levels, you're looking at an 8-speed automatic transmission. And like I said, you can go front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is also available. And in similar fashion with the Encore GX, there are 2 engine and transmission options available. If you go with the 1.2-liter 3-cylinder, it makes 137 horsepower. You'll have a CVT and front-wheel drive. Now, if you go with the 1.3-liter 3-cylinder, your horsepower steps up to 155. You'll have a 9-speed automatic transmission. And let's talk about cargo space and some similarities here that you'll find on both models. 25.5 to 63.7 cubic feet of cargo capacity with the Hyundai Kona. You can fold the rear seats completely flat, obviously, to help maximize cargo capacity. And there's a little bit of space on each side. You'll have the hangers right here for bags, things like that, whatever you can get to hang on there to keep in place when you're driving down the road. A little bit of lighting, a little more space right there. And when we look underneath here, we can see, in fact, let me get this carpet out of the way. There you go. You can see that the floor is actually pretty far down there. It actually is going to be changed into a couple of different areas. You can see where it sits right here. So depending on your situation, you can change the positioning of the floor to raise it or lower it like I have right here. And one last thing here that is very important, there is a spare tire. Now this whole floor section right here is removable, so you can get that out, no problems there. That makes it easier to gain access to the spare tire. And there's also a spare tire over here with the Encore GX, and in similar fashion, in fact, I'll just pull the floor out to show you right here. There is your spare tire. Now let's see how talented I am one-handed. I don't know if I can do this or not, but we're gonna try and do it. There we go, I did it. Okay, you can see that you have the same basic setup here where you can position the floor in a couple of different areas. Depending on where you want it to be positioned, it can be lower, it can also sit up higher, just depends. And both models have removable cargo covers, very easy to deal with, basically the same setup in both vehicles. And cargo capacity on the Encore GX, 23.5 to 50.2 cubic feet. You can see I also have the seats lowered here as well, just to show you what things look like when cargo space is maximized. Okay, let's take a look into the back seat area of the Kona. A little bit of a difference between the two is going to be with the armrest. That's the difference right there. So you'll notice you don't have that plastic on the Encore GX. We'll have a nice bottle holder right here. I really wouldn't call that a door bin, but there is space there for more than just holding a drink. Fold down armrest with cup holders built in, and we'll hop inside here. There is a reasonable amount of space. In fact, quite a bit of space. Here in the rear seating area, not only leg space, but at 5'10", I have a reasonable amount of headroom. Somebody over 6 feet tall could definitely sit back here without a problem. And air conditioning vents on the rear of the center console, in addition to USB connectivity options. Now, if you're looking for the more comfortable armrest, it's going to be here in the Buick. Notice that has some padding there. And I don't know that it would be super uncomfortable with the plastic basically over there on the Kona, but that is a little bit of a surprise where that's concerned. But this one definitely has a little more padding there. Now, let's hop inside and see what happens. And you have still a good bit of space right here, pretty much the same in both vehicles. Now this is going to be a little bit of a difference, at least based on trim level here. Again, we can only work with what's available in inventory. No air conditioning vents back here, which I don't think is an issue, but you do have some USB options once again. And we'll start off here in the front seat area with the Buick. Pretty much the same thing with the padded armrest right here, a little bit of padding there, and a much larger door bin. That's more of a door bin than what we saw in the rear seating area. And changes with the dash. Now we do have a glove box right here, plenty of space in there, but the changes on the dash are going to be found right here. 19 inches worth of screen. This is the virtual cockpit. Don't worry, when we get in the driver's seat, I'll show you that in a little more detail. But we have all of our climate control, all that good stuff is here, and a couple of USB options and a 12-volt power outlet. A conventional style shifter here. Kind of more traditional, more typical if you're looking for something that isn't typical. Well, we're going to find that in the Kona when we hop over there. A couple of options here. I think you know what everything is. A little space in front of the center console. And the center console may not be super wide, but you do have enough height there to easily use it as an armrest, although it may just be one person using it as an armrest, but not unusual in a subcompact crossover. And if you're wondering if there's any differences with the armrest in the front seat area on these front doors compared to what we saw on the rear with the Kona, well, no, there isn't. However, if you put your arm up there, for me personally, well, that doesn't really seem to be that big of a deal. If you had it up there for a long time, a couple hours or something, I don't know how that would feel. But that's what's there, in case you were wondering. A much larger door bin, just like we saw with the Buick. And then we'll hop inside. Now, there is a little bit more use of available space here in this area. And again, we have the glove box. It's a license plate or bracket holder, license plate bracket box right there. And you'll find some more connectivity options here. And remember how I said there was a difference with the shifter? Well, here is your shifter. So you do that to go into reverse. This will put you in drive, and that's your park. Go into park right there. So you can see some of the differences here in layout as well. And basically the same size. I think the lid here is a little bit wider, but not a ton, if any at all. But you still have some space within this area. Now, it's a little bit of a different layout because, well, it's basically open, but you still have pretty much the same amount of space as we saw with the Buick. And as we look in through the driver's side door on the Buick, here's what we're going to have. Just to show you what's here, I don't really need to tell you too much about that because, well, it's pretty easy to figure out. The control for your exterior lights, your headlights and taillights right there. You can adjust the tilt and telescopically adjustable steering wheel by dropping that lever. And here is the virtual cockpit from the driver's position. Let me start the vehicle and we'll get everything up and running. So what you have is 11 inches on the infotainment screen and 8 inches over here on the instrument display or the instrument cluster, the driver's display, whatever you want to call that. Pretty modern looking. It looks nice, easy to deal with, no problem at all. And your steering wheel mounted controls here, obviously everything here to control your front and rear window wipers. And a really nice look here. But if you're looking for something that's simplistic, well, that's good. Wireless capabilities for pairing your smartphone. You have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Let's see what our backup camera looks like. There's what you're going to have. It's just one view in this case, but you can see what is there. But I do like the fact that it's a very simplistic system to use, fairly minimalistic for those who maybe don't want too much as far as this model goes. And you do have similarities down here with some of the buttons and switches within the interior, especially right down here. And so tell me what you think. One thing especially that I like to know about, what do you think about the differences in the shifters and where they're located? Everybody has their preferences. What is yours? And the upper console here in the Buick. In case you're wondering what all you'll find there, I'll give you a good look at that so you can see for yourself. And here with the Hyundai Kona, well, definitely a very nice and modern look, as you can see. We'll go ahead and hop on inside here And you'll have to tell me which screen setup you like more. If you had to choose between one or the other, which one do you think is better? Everybody's going to have their personal preferences, that's for sure. But both look nice and modern. They have a very easy to use setup and display. We're going to turn the fan speed down just a little bit right there. But I like the fact that it looks as nice as it does. Obviously, you're going to control your headlights and everything right here instead of having a control down in this area. And you can see some of the other controls that are here as well. I think you know what everything is, where all of that is concerned. And you do have some one-touch buttons here to get you wherever you need to go here on the infotainment screen or the center screen here. And depending on what you need, well, you just select that. You can even use something, depending on what your situation is, that's here, is you can type in whatever it is you want to search for. Very easy to deal with. But you'll see that this one has a little bit different look to it. No more complicated to use, that's for sure. Pretty easy to deal with. And what happens when we go into reverse? Let's see how the camera looks. Well, there's what we have with everything. A very clear look with both cameras, that's for sure. Now, you do have a couple of different views here on this particular trim level, but just remember, again, like I said earlier, it's all based on what's available in inventory. We do have dual zone climate control here, unlike the single zone over there in the Buick. So a little bit of a difference there. Also heated seats here. That's going to be down in this area. And you can see you have a drive mode selector. So what exactly do we have in the way of drive modes? Well, you can see what happens when we change things. And you only have a couple of drive modes to choose from. So normal and sport. But both give the instrument cluster a nice clean look. And in case you're wondering, I know you saw the cup holders in the Buick over there, and you're probably saying to yourself, unless you're familiar with these new Konas from Hyundai, well, where are the cup holders? Well, kind of hidden away here. So what that ultimately does, if you need one, well, you can use just one and still have a lot of extra space here. Space being used very well by Hyundai. And since I don't think I showed you the single zone climate control here for the Buick, here is what we have. Very simple to use. It's definitely just as effective. And for those who wanted to see the remotes for each vehicle, well, you know which is which. The Buick is on the left, the Hyundai on the right, and you can see what each one looks like and what kind of functionality each has. Okay, we're going to get out on the road for our test drive with the Kona to begin with. And while this isn't the most powerful version of what's available with these two models, well, it still seems to do a really good job of getting things taken care of as far as being able to get down the road. And unfortunately, I can't really do much of an acceleration test here because people are driving 15 miles per hour under the speed limit, but that's okay because we're really not too worried about that with the Kona. Now, obviously, you do have that inline and the limited versions that have 190 horsepower under the hood. Probably a little more fun to drive, a little more sporty experience, but not everybody wants that. Some people want to have less horsepower. That means they're not going to spend as much money on gas necessarily. May not make a huge difference in this particular case when we compare 147 to 190, but one way or another, a really enjoyable vehicle to drive. The ride quality is good for a subcompact crossover SUV. The seats seem to be comfortable to me, although I haven't spent a long time in these. So, yeah, depending on the situation, it would be nice to have a longer term test drive so I could really say, well, if you're in the vehicle for a couple of hours or more, you know, here's what your experience might be. But that's one of the things I like to tell people about these car review videos. When you do the test drive portion, watch the test drive portion, the thing is, I'm telling you what I'm experiencing based on my personal experience, what I'm used to, what I normally drive. And depending on what you're coming from, you might say, well, the Kona rides better, or maybe it doesn't. It just depends on your personal situation and what you like, what you're used to, all those kinds of things. So that's why it's better for you to get out here and drive these vehicles for yourself. But overall, very enjoyable to drive. The technology, easy to deal with. Let's hop over into the Buick now and see what the comparison is. All right, we're going to get out on the road for our test drive now with the Buick. And again, a good ride quality, a good comfortable ride quality, I'd say, for what it is. A shorter wheelbase vehicle, a lot of the time, tends to have a little bit more of a choppy ride experience. And it isn't bad here, that's for sure. It may not be Cadillac smooth, not butter smooth, but you know what, at the same time, it's not too bad. But what's interesting here is that it almost feels like this model has better acceleration when I'm just easing into the pedal than what I experienced with the Kona. But that's just my experience. I know most people who buy these vehicles are going to say, I don't even care about that. I just am interested in maybe something that doesn't have to take a lot of gas to get around. It doesn't cost me a lot at the pump. Good gas mileage, enough room to get things done, and the price point is really good. And that's definitely one thing on both models. And I know the price point can get a little over $30,000 with each one, maybe a little more than that, depending on how you option things out. It just depends. But one way or another, definitely within a really good place in the pricing area. And the interior here, well, likewise, pretty comfortable. Now, the one thing that I would say that I personally noticed that is different between the two has to do with the seats. I feel like the bolstering here in the Buick is maybe a little tighter, so you feel like you have a little more room in the Kona. So, I don't know. It just depends, again, on who you are and what you consider comfortable or what you may not. Acceleration, well, pretty much the same as what we experienced in the Hyundai. Both get down the road with absolutely no problem for what they are. People aren't expecting lightning quick runs from 0 to 60 or anything like that, no matter what trim level of either model you wind up with or what engine is under the hood and what transmission is backed up to that. But the good thing is that both do have available all-wheel drive, so good for dealing with snow and ice, even though probably not the perfect vehicles for that because they're fairly light, so you'd like to have a little bit more weight where that is concerned. Technology here, well, in both models, pretty easy to deal with, pretty easy to learn and figure out if you've never had a vehicle like this before. And just real quick here, one thing that's going to be different, obviously the overall exterior design on the side of each vehicle. Probably a little bit harder to see some of that with the Encore GX with the white exterior color. Both have nice body lines. I guess it just depends on what you like. So tell me what you think about each model, and if you were in the market for a subcompact crossover, which one of these would maybe suit your needs more or your taste. Just depends on what the situation is and why you're buying what you're buying. I'm curious to know. I will leave a link to each dealership down in the description of the video in case you want to know. Located here in Shreveport, Louisiana. I do want to say a special thanks to my friends at Mike Morgan Hyundai and Mike Morgan Buick GMC for loaning both of these models to me so I can show them to you. Would also like to say a special thanks to each and every one of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button. That helps me out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed to the Vehicle Visionary YouTube channel just yet, please consider doing so. That way you don't miss any future videos. Tell me what kind of videos you would like to see me make. What vehicles? Do you want comparisons on other vehicles? Tell me about it, and I'll do everything I can to make that happen for you, depending on what is available. And if you would like to learn about additional vehicles you may wish to consider purchasing, check out the video that's on the screen right now, and I will see you there.